The first time I walked into a farmhouse outside Berlin, Ohio, in the middle of August, I expected the usual thing. I expected stale air, sweating walls, and that humming exhaustion every modern house carries by noon. I expected the upstairs to feel trapped. I expected the roof to feel like a skillet over my head. What I found instead changed something. The air was dry. The hallway stayed calm. Light came through the windows without that sharp, punishing bite. The place sat in Holmes County, a few miles outside Berlin. White gravel, clipped grass, a roof shining hard above the lane. The bedroom doors upstairs were open. The wood smelled clean. No machine smell hung in the air. I stood there for 11 minutes looking for the vent register that should have been pushing cold air. It was not there. My shirt had stuck to my back outside. Inside, my breathing slowed. You know that heavy indoor heat that presses against your face before your hand reaches the wall switch? That feeling never came. I kept waiting for the illusion to break. It did not. No compressor, no fan motor, no duct hiss, just quiet. And in that quiet, I understood something ugly. You were taught to think cooling begins with electricity. I was wrong. I kept going back. Late August, early June, harvest season, same result. In homes around Holmes County, I kept finding the same forgotten move, hiding above the rooms where people actually slept. Not a machine, a surface, not a gadget, a decision. I've been going back to that community every summer for 3 years, and every time I find something the building industry forgot on purpose. Here is the promise. A thin reflective layer can change everything. Install it right, and summer attic heat flow drops by 30 to 35%. The cost stays below many single service calls. And yes, this works even if your house was built 50 years ago. It works if you live in a city. It works if you've never done this before. It works if you don't have land. Stay with me. Because what I found in Holmes County uses the same physics the Persians used to cool desert buildings roughly 2,700 years ago. The number that sounds impossible is this: 0 watts in use. 0. And yet the roof stops acting like a second sun. You were trained to think comfort must be manufactured. Buy the box, feed the box, service the box, replace the box. What I am showing you is older than that business model, cheaper too, and quieter than modern houses almost ever get. The science is brutally simple. Your roof gets hot, very hot. In summer sun, the underside of roof decking can climb above 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That hot surface throws radiant heat across the attic airspace toward your insulation, your ductwork, and eventually your ceiling. The Oak Ridge National Laboratory tested this directly. In monitored Florida homes with attic equipment, radiant barriers produced 9% cooling energy savings and a 16% peak load reduction. In plain English, that means the house needed less machine power during the worst part of the day. Not theory, measured performance. The Department of Energy and the Building America Solution Center described the mechanism the same way. A radiant barrier is reflective aluminum foil placed next to an airspace. That airspace matters because radiation moves like sunlight hitting your skin. Touch a cast iron skillet and you feel conduction. Stand near one and you feel radiant heat. Your attic does both. Low emissivity is the hidden number. Bare aluminum can drop emissivity to roughly 0.03 to 0.05, which means very little radiant energy gets absorbed and re-radiated inward. Fiberglass slows conduction. Foil changes the radiation game itself. That is why a layer thinner than cardboard can outperform inches of bulk material when the sun is hammering the roof. Think about your body for a second. On a dry day, shade feels cooler before the air temperature changes much. The shade did not refrigerate the world. It blocked radiant loading on your skin. A good attic barrier does the same thing for your ceiling and ductwork. Call it an operating coefficient of performance that breaks the chart. You get 30 to 35 units of blocked attic heat flow for every 1 unit of runtime electricity. The input during use is 0. A central air conditioner usually delivers around 2.8 to 3.6 units of cooling for every 1 unit of electricity. There is another reason this matters. Your thermostat reads air temperature, but your body reads radiant load as much as air. A room at 78 degrees can feel punishing when the ceiling above you absorbed a day of attic glare. The same room can feel workable when the ceiling runs 4 to 8 degrees cooler. Then the west wall stops radiating into your shoulders after sunset. That is why people say one house feels tired and another feels calm, even when the thermostat number looks nearly identical. You are not imagining comfort, you are feeling physics through skin, eyes, lungs, and sleep. Once you understand that, the whole sales script around bigger units starts sounding childish. Bigger machines do not change the sun. Better surfaces interrupt the sun. Better venting carries heat away. Better sequencing lets the house help you before the compressor starts begging for another summer of service. That is why old houses with high vents, shaded porches, and bright roofs often feel survivable before breakfast and after dusk. Sealed boxes feel exhausted by noon. That difference changes mood, patience, and sleep for you. That is the whole scam in one comparison. One system fights heat after your house absorbs it. The other stops much of that heat before your rooms ever feel it. That gap represents a massive market in equipment, service, refrigerants, and replacement every year. And that is why you have never heard of this. The first place I felt the difference was a farmhouse outside Mount Hope, Ohio. By 2 in the afternoon, gravel outside looked white with glare, and the porch boards felt hot through my boots. Inside, the second floor stayed calm enough that I stopped checking for hidden vents. I could hear a clock. I could hear flies at the screen. I could not hear machinery. Eli told me something while we stood near the stair landing. Eli said the trick only works if the shiny face sees open air and the roof keeps breathing from eave to ridge. Then Eli laughed and pointed upward, because modern roofs usually forget one of those two things. 4 generations, same method. Eli also said something better. Eli said old builders watched where summer sleep happened and then protected those rooms first. Bedrooms upstairs got attention. Attic hatches got attention. West walls got attention. The goal was never abstract efficiency. The goal was making people rest. That knowledge came with families from the Palatinate and Alsace. Then it stayed in barns, summer kitchens, and sleeping rooms long after cities forgot it. That knowledge never disappeared. It was filed away. It was waiting. A 1798 Pennsylvania tax record, later cited by the Pennsylvania Agricultural History Project, already listed detached kitchens across German Pennsylvania. The same archive notes that summer kitchens persisted from about 1850 to 1930 because cook stoves radiated heat oppressively inside the main house. Even barn masonry carried ventilation slits so stored hay would not heat itself from within. Go back farther and the pattern gets eerie. In Yazd, Persian builders raised wind catchers that pulled air downward and sometimes pushed it across water before it entered a room. At Dowlatabad Garden, one wind catcher rises about 33 meters. Same goal. Stop heat, move air, protect the body. Then look at ancient Egypt. Polished pale limestone reflected brutal desert light instead of drinking it. Bright surfaces mattered. Heat control started outside the room, not after the room was already suffering. That logic survives in every reflective roof and every low emissivity layer used correctly today. Then look at the ancient Southwest. In adobe pueblos, walls often reached roughly 18 to 24 inches thick. Daytime heat slowed down. The interior lagged behind the desert sun. Different materials, same intelligence. Use the building first and the machine last. Every civilization that mastered extreme heat arrived at the same answer independently. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from the Palatinate to Pennsylvania and Ohio over 200 years ago. Then they kept building it because it worked. No permission required. Now comes the part that should make you angry. In March 1956, General Electric and Westinghouse helped launch the Medallion Home campaign at the National Electrical Manufacturers Association conference. The decision was simple: build the American house around electric consumption. Protect appliance and conditioning sales. Westinghouse added a $2.5 million marketing pledge in 1958. The mechanism was not subtle. The program rewarded houses with at least 6 major electric appliances. It specified at least 100 amp service and pushed at least 20 circuits. Add electric heating and you earned the gold medallion. Over 900 electric utilities and 180 manufacturers backed the campaign. The checklist became the culture. Then residential cooling got cheap enough to scale. The Department of Energy notes that Henry Galson helped mass-produce cheaper window units, and by 1947 Americans bought 43,000 of them. By the late 1960s, most new homes had central air. Once that happened, builders stopped treating shade, venting, and radiant control as the first line of defense. Mechanical cooling became the assumption, not the backup. Nobody told you, not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you tonnage. Once the profitable house became the all-electric house, passive cooling looked old, poor, and backward by design. Detached summer kitchens vanished, deep porches shrank, vented attics stayed, but the old understanding of radiant control stopped getting explained. The named allies were obvious. General Electric funded the media message. Westinghouse funded the national push. Utilities amplified every promise because every fully electrified house sold more kilowatt hours for decades. Even federal mortgage culture leaned toward repeatable suburban standardization, which made appliance-heavy houses easy to replicate and easy to finance. Nobody told you, not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you tonnage. An entire field of knowledge disappeared from architecture schools, builder habits, and everyday home advice. Not because it failed, because it wasn't profitable, and the modern version never ended. In Denver, a 2015 letter campaign by EPDM roofing advocates helped defeat a cool roof proposal. In Baltimore, during a 2022 cool roof fight, the EPDM Roofing Association and the Asphalt Roofing Manufacturers Association lobbied against reflective requirements. In 2022, the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute reported $964,622 in federal lobbying. The words changed. The money trail did not. The U.S. residential HVAC market was valued at $16.43 billion in 2023. Every passive retrofit installed is equipment that never gets upsized, replaced, financed, or serviced. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking this only applies to people starting fresh, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need to buy equipment. You need a weekend. Here is how you do it without turning your house into a science project. Start in the attic, not the living room. Before you buy anything, spend 20 minutes checking the attic on a sunny afternoon. Look for ridge vent daylight. Look for clear soffit paths. Look for roof leaks, wet insulation, and old knob and tube wiring. If the roof cannot breathe, fix that first. If your rafters sit 16 inches on center, measure each bay first. Then cut low-E radiant foil with a 1-inch slack. If your rafters sit 24 inches on center, let the foil drape a little more. The shiny face must still look across open air. Staple or cap nail the barrier to the lower edge of the rafters, not flat against the roof deck. Leave an air space of 1.5 to 2 inches between the hot roof sheathing and the reflective face. Stop the barrier 3 inches short of the ridge vent and 3 inches above the soffit path so airflow keeps moving. Use 1x2 pine battens every 24 inches if your attic gets windy. If your attic hatch measures 22 by 54 inches, seal that too. Heat pours through access panels because most of them are nothing but thin plywood. Add foil-faced polyiso on top, then run compressible weather strip around the frame. If one west-facing room suffers more than the rest, make a removable test panel first. A 24-inch by 36-inch frame tells you a lot in one afternoon. For materials, keep it boring. Low-E radiant foil, aluminum-faced foil laminate, stainless staples, house-wrap tape rated for heat. If you need rigid pieces over a west attic hatch, use foil-faced polyiso cut to the opening and backed with weather strip. If you need a temporary test panel, keep it simple. Stretch muslin cotton over a frame, put foil on the sun side and keep a 3/4-inch air gap behind it. Do not cover bath fan exhausts. Do not bury recessed can lights unless the fixture is rated for insulation contact. Keep the foil away from active flues by at least 3 inches. If ducts run through the attic, seal joints with mastic before you celebrate. A radiant barrier over leaking ducts is still better than nothing, but tight ducts let the whole system compound. Costs stay low if you stay disciplined. A small roll of radiant foil runs $58 to $92. Battens cost $21 to $37. Staples tape and weather strip add $18 to $29. A sheet of foil-faced polyiso for the attic hatch runs $19 to $34. Even with a decent staple gun, most people land between $116 and $192 for one attic zone. A larger house usually lands between $188 and $346. If you want proof before committing, borrow a cheap infrared thermometer. Take one reading from the ceiling drywall before the retrofit at 4 p.m. Take another reading 48 hours after installation under similar weather. Then measure the hatch surface. You are not guessing anymore. You are watching the roof stop broadcasting heat into your rooms. One warning matters more than every other detail. The air gap is not optional. Gluing foil directly to the roof deck causes the reflective surface to lose the very radiant separation that makes it work. That mistake turns a heat shield into shiny decoration. Do the work on one Saturday morning if your attic is small. Give it 2 weekends if you want every bay clean and tight. On a 95-degree day, attic-adjacent rooms feel measurably calmer. Field studies have shown 30 to 35% less heat moving from the attic toward the house. In the best hot climate cases, Oak Ridge National Laboratory reported $50 to $150 in annual savings where leaky attic ducts were present. Check for dust once a year. Replace torn tape maybe every 5 years. Your conventional cooling system costs $6,400 to $14,800 to install. It costs $118 to $286 to 1 per month in hot weather. It lasts 12 to 18 years before landfill time. This costs $188 total if you start small. It lasts 20 to 25 years. Your choice. Everything I've covered across this channel, root cellar airflow, lime-washed walls, attic ventilation, I've put it all in one place. Step by step, season by season, room by room, in the order families actually use it. I have not named it yet. Link is in the description. But stay here, because what Eli built is the part nobody is talking about yet. The Amish did not read this in a textbook. The Persians did not read this in a textbook. Real knowledge gets discovered by paying attention to what the earth was already doing. Then somebody profitable arrives and tells you to stop looking up. If you believe real knowledge was pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. Not for me, for what comes next. Because this is not a channel. This is a quiet movement of people who have decided they're done being sold what they already own. I want to hear from you. Drop your state, your July cooling bill, and whether your grandparents used a summer kitchen, attic vent, or porch trick below. I read every single one. And your answers decide what we cover next. Next week I'm going to show you what a 1946 Pennsylvania farm document reveals. It is about keeping kitchen heat out of the main house. The technique uses nothing but lime, shade, and moving air. And the record proves builders understood this decades before sealed boxes with bigger compressors took over. You are not going to want to miss that one.